Okay, folks, let's get ready to boogie. So I will call the meeting to order. Uh, we're not going to take a roll call. I think Peter can do that. Today's agenda is primarily we're going to listen to, folks. Um, let me just talk about the agenda. Any changes to the agenda that I need to make? Let me just say that I know Lulu Seri is not here, so I do not expect that we will do anything associated with a life members report. Um, but beyond that, I think the agenda is as we have it. Greg, can you pop the agenda, or is this the agenda?
This is the agenda.
Oh, okay, so you made it nice. All right. Any changes? So hearing none, let's proceed. Okay, so we start with my remarks, and my remarks are going to be focused but short. Today I'm going to do a lot more listening than talking, which is maybe unusual for me. And we're going to listen to the areas from what did we learn. But let me just say, as when we get into the look ahead, or what have we learned, let me just say that it is my hope that we are not focusing ourselves to be yesterday's institute tomorrow, right? And so let me just say, yesterday's institute doesn't work tomorrow. I mean, we can see that as we see more and more of our inability to attract and retain younger folks. So I'm hoping that what we learn is what we need to do to change, and the change cannot be, and the idea that the young professionals don't get it, they don't get it, they don't understand all the value we saw, they don't get it. Let me just say that hasn't worked for the last 10 years, so maybe that's not the issue, right? And so I'm hoping that we can look ahead and be, tomorrow's institute as opposed to yesterday's institute, right? And hopefully tomorrow's institute can be exactly what it needs to be for the totality of its membership. So having said that, those are my remarks. And so now the first part of the meeting is really to talk a little bit and share a little bit of what we learned. And the first one up is really Greg. Greg, so from a regional point of view, and I'll chime in if necessary, but let's talk about what have we learned? What have we, the region, learned? And go ahead, boogie woogie oogie till you just can't boogie no more. Greg, I see you have a presentation.
I do. And I have a budget coming up next year. So my first act as Region 1 Director-elect will be to give up free coffee to anyone, and I think I know who's going to win this, but I'm not going to say. Whoever knows what this is, put it in the chat and you win a free coffee. All right. That, of course, so I guess I keep my budget. Oh, so Ed, either you're muted or I'm muted.
I'm muted. I was going to say Queen, but that's all right.
Close, but no cigar. So that was actually Three Dog Night from 1974.
Oh my goodness.
Singing The Show Must Go On. And
right.
and so and you're correct on this slide. This is Queen from The Show Must Go On. And I think since I was sort of targeted with saying what did we learn, I just wanted to start off by talking a little bit about things that I've observed in the region, things that we've done, and things that I think are going to happen in the future. And I think the first one is, the biggest thing that happened, I think, in the region is that every company right now has learned how to Zoom. And if they haven't, they probably don't exist. And, more than a year ago, when we used to talk about, actually now 2 years ago, when we talked about running virtual events, we all kind of laughed because we kind of thought, well, no one's going to really know how to do that. It's not going to work very well. And well, that's changed, and that's simply not going away. And I think the one big take home message really has to be that, every company now knows how to Zoom. And so that's going to be part of our, you know, forte going forward, and something that I think all of us across the region are going to have to embrace. And let's see, and we're all getting tired of Zoom by now, but that's not going to last. And the technology has now evolved where we're all video chatting and so forth. And yeah, we're a little tired. We're all we're all I lost one of my slides. One of the things that I noticed yesterday in watching the Bills game was that, everybody's ready to return for better, for worse. Now, for me, I mean, I watched the game and I was thrilled that they won, and it was a good day. But I think this slide actually, made me a little nervous, looking at the crowd and thinking, would I really want to be there in that close proximity to individuals not knowing if they were vaccinated or not? And I think that's why we're meeting virtually today as opposed to in person. But it's going to happen. We're gonna all be back together soon. So, but I think the thing is that our Zoom fatigue is not going to last forever. So we really have to kind of take what we've learned, and we really need to apply it to what we're going to do in the future. Now, there were lots of meetings that we never thought would work virtually. I mean, here's a good example, one that happened in July in Syracuse. The section has run a fellows night probably for the last, when I was chair there, I think, maybe it's been done now for 30 years. And if you'd said to me when I was section chair, okay, you have no choice, you've got to run this virtually, I would have just said it's never, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And so here you see an example. Vince gave a great presentation at the Syracuse section fellows meeting, and virtual is now working. And so even meetings that we thought in past that never, could have been done virtually in the past are now being done virtually. And I think the other thing that you learn is that we never really thought successful meetings could be held at lunch. And now, that's completely changing. And I think one of the things that we've learned is that engineers can't get out of the office very frequently. And so historically, IEEE has always run their meetings at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And if you have kids and you have a family and you're cooking dinner and so forth, that type of meeting actually didn't always work either. And so there's now a real good opportunity. I think companies are more willing to let their engineers watch something over lunch, and even if it's a learning experience. And so I think that is something that we've got to remember going forward. And we're seeing meetings now advertised over the web that we never thought would have happened in the past, like employers engaging interns with Zoom lunch and learns and speed mentoring, things that can be done virtually with people either in the office or at home. And it's something that I think if sections really want to be successful, they're going to basically have to, embrace this, because they'll probably find that more people can join for a very short meeting. It doesn't have to be an hour at lunch, over lunch at their office. And the other thing that I think we learned is that a successful meeting developed by section is no longer really limited to its own geographic boundary. And that's something else that I think all sections need to embrace, which is that meetings that you have locally are likely to be of interest to the entire region. And we've found that when we advertise these more broadly, either across the region or across an area, you can have a much larger meeting than you could if you had it in person, on site somewhere within your section. So that's another thing that I think looking forward, sections really need to think about. How do they co-sponsor or co-manage events that can be delivered over a bigger geographic area? Before, that was part of our imagination, because for me to go to Syracuse meant I had to hop in the car for 2 hours to go to a meeting. Well, guess what? That's not necessary anymore. So I think with the timing, with the changing times, it's more important that you start thinking about meetings that might apply over a larger area. And then the last thing that I think sections really should embrace is that successful meetings, they're not over, right? You can record them now virtually, and they can be put on YouTube. And this is actually from the board meeting last week. It's on the Region 1 YouTube channel associated with our Gmail account. And you can now get many of the presentations that were done by the leadership last week on YouTube, and you can watch it at any point in time. They're not going to disappear anytime soon. So that's the beauty of having a great meeting, is that it can live on for a much longer time. And with that, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop talking and let the others talk. But I think looking forward, we have to figure out how to better embrace the technology that has now become part of our lives. And so with that, I'm going to jump back to the group. I have no more videos, sorry.
Greg, so what do you say with respect to hybrid type meetings that incorporate both? How do you see that? That incorporate both the personal, right, for those who are local, as well as the ability
Well, I think
record and expand it.
they're certainly important. So let's say, we used to run in Rochester a meeting every year, which was just for elevating people to senior members. And we used to deliver that, really just locally. But, those meetings no longer have to be local. They can be partially in person and delivered virtually. I think, even yesterday, not yesterday, I guess Friday, when I had my class uh, in person, oh gosh, in person at the university, uh, all of the classrooms now, most, not all, actually not all, but a fair amount of them have been wired for hybrid delivery. And so production should really, I realize there's an investment cost there to kind of get the technology in place, but many universities now are Zoom ready, and the ability to have a hybrid meeting where you're actually broadcasting simultaneously actually should be fairly straightforward at this point. So I think, it's something that we should do. It probably, you're probably better off doing that regardless of whether or not you meet in person or not. It should be fairly straightforward if you're at a university now to record a presentation live, deliver it live and record it. So I don't know. What do others think on that? I mean, that's what I've seen at our university for sure.
Yeah, my classroom, I just got wired for hybrid, and since my class requires me to bring or desires me to bring outside people to do judgment on student talks, and they can't come on campus because they're not university employees and they don't get the vaccination and all the things required by, let's say, Stony Brook. I can bring those judging panels virtually. and I intend to do that. I also ran a very low-tech but successful home association, homeowners association. I live in a 127 people community. I'm the president of the homeowners association. I get in front of the folks every quarter, tell them how we're doing, and you actually did it, in a virtual meeting. We had folks in the room, and we were also had folks participating, from their screens or from their computers. So, it can be done. It can be done.
If I may interrupt just for a moment, there are several people who have just signed on as, for example, MGA Rochester, WebEx IEEE Buffalo. I need to know your names, please. So I'm assuming you're the section chairs, but not necessarily, since this meeting is open to everyone in the section leadership. So please let me know who you are so I can keep track of the attendance correctly. Thank you.
Hi, WebEx IEEE Buffalo is Padma Kasturi Rangan.
Okay, I thought so. Wasn't sure. Thanks.
All right. So moving right along, unless we have any other comments and questions, with Greg.
Guess I could have spoke longer, but I mean, I think even Ed, for us, I mean, all of the IEEE board meetings are now virtual as well. So I don't see this going away at all.
Well, I think that the other thing that has happened, and I think you pointed out, I think it was also, is that at the end of the day, they become much more successful from a point of view of reaching a broader audience, and so that whole aspect of I can't make it because it's half-hour drive or an hour drive goes away, and so you actually can impact, and we saw in our own training, when we did some of those project management training modules and things of that nature, how we were able to attract large audiences that we would never have attracted had we held it, solely locally and in person. So there's a lot to be said about that, right? So there's a place for these, and I think, to your point, and the place for this is now firmly embedded in our toolkit as we go forward, right? So the region will continue to take advantage of these types of things that are now mainstream. Okay? All right, so let's now hear from the northeast.
Northeast.
Good morning, everyone. So can you see the slide on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Ali Obedi. I'm Northeast Area Chair. What I'm going to present the next few minutes with the help from our section chairs is what we learned from the previous year and what are our plans for next year. And hopefully we'll have some time for question and discussions. So I will call on different section chairs since they put their own slide together to go over that, and hopefully they're all here so we can hear from their experience. And one thing I want to bring up to everybody is just pay close attention to the common theme between all these different section best practices, and you will see there is a common thread toward the end. So I don't know if Mary is here from Boston section. Peter, is Mary here?
No.
No? Okay. Anybody from Boston section here, like a vice chair or somebody else? Okay, so that's fine. So I will just go over this.
Ali, I'm from Boston section.
So do you want to go over this, or do you want me to go over this one?
You go ahead.
Okay. So basically, there were some lessons learned that Mary shared with us, that when companies start to rebrand themselves, they're exploring opportunities to partner with IEEE. They also have been looking into annual online chapter chairs leadership meetings to help with the networking aspect of IEEE and also exchanging ideas. and also developing new IEEE Boston courses. So the need for people to learn new skills, especially in the industry. So these are the things they learned that they have worked in the past year, despite being in the pandemic and online work. Future plans, they're thinking about hybrid models for all the section events. Again, to the point that Greg mentioned about sections don't have any boundaries anymore, and move more resources towards social media. So looking to hire a knowledgeable social media person. So on this slide, I mean, in summary, you will see what works, what they learned, and in terms of what are their shortcomings, and they're basically trying to address that. So next one, I believe Ashanti is here from main section. Ashanti.
Yes, yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Ashanti Maxwell. I'm the interim chair for the IEEE main section, and thank you, Professor Ali, for helping me to get the slides ready. So the lessons learned, and I became the interim chair as of this June. So I'm quite new to the main section, as well as I'm new as the interim chair as well. So one thing we actually learned, like some of the points were already discussed in the big meeting. The members actually value the new online modality, including myself, because I am joining meetings in between teaching and so on. So therefore, it really helps to have the online modality. And then the timing is very important because we have some of the events that we have organized during the lunch hour from noon to 1. That hour works for everybody. So since we have the online modality, everybody can join those webinars and meetings during their lunch hour. And also we highly collaborate with other sections like the New Hampshire section, as well as the New Brunswick section up in North, and as well as the Boston section as well when we are organizing events. And we are trying to organize our events within a broad range. As of now, IEEE Power and Energy Society and the ComSoc chapter, they have been the most active chapters within our section. So as for our future plans, we continue to deliver our artificial intelligence webinars, and we have a panel discussion coming up on September 9th. And we are trying to seek new emerging topics, and we are trying to get our student involvement improved as well, and also new networking opportunities. And once the pandemic is passed, we will be having a better chance on that. And also, we are trying to enhance the industry presence within the section as well as outside the section, because we are trying to get more involvement from the industry and have people come and talk in our panels and so on to make a bigger presence from the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashanti. And again, the major theme on this one is that if you pick the right topic, the right time, the right day, people will come. So this artificial intelligence webinar series that we started last year in fall during the pandemic, in 4 events that we ran, we got over 1,200 people registered. So roughly 300 person per webinar, which is almost 10 times more than our local in-person events, which used to be only the same 30 people coming, over and over. So this was an interesting experience. So let's go to the next section. Jim Isaac, is Jim here?
Jim is not here. This is David Casper. I'm in here in his place.
Oh, so David, do you want to go over this one?
Sure. Let's see.
So David, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're mute or.
Okay. We've been holding our virtual meetings for the last year plus. Been noticing some fall off in engagement with our members in the ExitCom. We're working to try to revitalize that. Whenever we've just had been looking at volunteer managed mailing lists. I know transitioning from one officer to another when we rotate out officers as they decide not to run again or reach the end of their service life because they can only run so many times. We are noticing loss of information. emailing lists, links, and all of that. Working towards some sort of volunteer managed emailing lists, like Groups.io is one that we're exploring. It's like $1,200 though for a nonprofit, so it's kind of out of a section's range. Looking also at sharing virtual event information. Well, we have X number of virtual events, but I mean, you don't have to physically be there to go to a virtual event. I've attended events in Arizona, the big security conferences I try to get to whenever I can get an invite. Working on ways to share that with our members, because I mean, if it's virtual, you don't have to be there. You can be in your house to go to it. Future plans, we're trying to revitalize our volunteer base. I mean, not all of us are really geared towards virtual meetings. I mean, I have to because of work, so I have the equipment. Not everybody has the microphone and the camera. You can't see me, so I don't have the camera. I leverage shared virtual events with other sections, and at some point we want to try and get people back in the same room. We were hoping for this year. It looks like it's probably not going to be till next year.
Great, thank you very much, David, for covering this. And one other thing I would add about this slide is that the collaboration that New Hampshire section provided with, for example, Maine section was very valuable, because we just had a transition of new volunteers, new section chairs, and new executive officers at the Maine section. And Jim Isaac and other folks at New Hampshire section basically opened up their XCOM meeting, invited people from Maine section to attend their XCOM, learn how business is done firsthand. This is much easier than just sending people emails and saying, follow these discussions. They have been also very helpful in terms of sharing virtual events with other groups, and I hope other sections can continue that. So now let's go to Providence section, and I see Tony.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Ed.
On the previous one, on the New Hampshire, is the issue associated with virtual because of the inherent age of the XCOM members? Are we seeing this because we have I want to say an older generation in the XCOM?
To some extent, yes. We also have, I mean, with anything, everybody gets interested in. For a few, we got a hot mic somewhere here. Well, we get a lot of interest from a lot of people, and then we seem to fall off when we get towards holidays. Sometimes when you're at home, you're not attending a meeting face to face. It's not an adventure where you get in a car and you go to a meeting and everyone meets, and then you come back. You're sitting at home, and family gets in the way sometimes. So I think it's a combination of, I mean, for me to embrace this whole virtual thing is very difficult because where I work, there are no cameras, there are no microphones. Virtual meetings are held in a vault where the door is sealed and no one comes in or out during the meeting. It's just the way the R&D world I work in lives. I think it's a combination of effects, and we're working towards trying to make it more useful to people. We've invited a number of outside speakers. We have an after meeting discussion session where we try to get speakers from other areas that have technology we might need or might be interested in, and try to embrace those other people to make it more useful. It's a work in progress right now, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question as well? So I'm curious about the email list and the archive tools. And so as we look forward to training sessions and so forth, I guess what I want to ask is, when you say email list, do you mean of members or do you mean of non-members?
I mean, the email list that a section chair maintains for getting in touch with people. Mostly it's members. It may be speakers that we're engaging. When someone transitions from being the committee chair for meetings, who are those people they're engaged with? One person leaves the XCOM, it may not be because they want to leave, maybe because they're changing jobs, family issue. be able
Yep.
to transition that data smoothly, because you may not have contact with that person again in real time for weeks or months, depending on what their situation is. I mean, none of us is getting younger either. I mean,
So this is a tricky issue for IEEE because they have to maintain, I'm trying to think of the acronym, GCDP or GD, Ed will remember, hopefully, but in order to maintain the privacy requirements, they're pretty strict guidelines for how email lists are maintained and utilized. So I think that's something that we'll maybe have to kind of work forward with, and I'll talk to a few folks at the MGA to determine the best way to move forward with stuff like that.
Greg,
yeah.
Yeah.
this is Charlotte. So I do know that there is an initiative at IEEE headquarters just for that, for a contact list for, volunteers who are not IEEE members. They are in like a beta stage for a rollout, probably closer towards October, November. There'll be a real rollout. And again, that's where if you're organizing an event or a conference and the people who are leading it are not IEEE members, we will have their contact information. Again, the idea is for reuse for other sections for fewer years down the road.
Right. And that will, that's part of I think the initiative for specific user groups or other types of groups that are not part of any particular society or chapter or society within the organization. But the nice thing about those is they're trying to adhere to the privacy rules and allowing people to opt out and so forth. And so those are some of the things that I know that they're very concerned about, that someone isn't just put on a list and contacted hundreds of times without the ability to get off the list easily. So it is kind of a touchy subject. I know that sections like to maintain their own lists because that's the easiest way to reach out. So
I know in our case for our section, we do maintain a XCOM list, but we use IEEE's list tools to do it,
Right.
and it does allow you to have external people on that list tool, because we have a group of like 40 people, maybe 15 of them are in IEEE members. They're spouses of IEEE members.
Yep, exactly. And the beauty of that listserv is it does have a mechanism for someone to opt off if they don't want to be part of it. And I think that's part of the key.
Yeah.
Thing.
Greg, I think, my take on this is that there's partly this issue is the communication. So some share sections are not aware of, the beauty of using listservs and B2s and all that. But this is not the case for New Hampshire. I mean, I attended all the XCOMs within my area. And what I learned is that part of this issue is just volunteers' preference, because they don't have enough time to learn a new tool. Some of them are comfortable with some specific tool and they just prefer, to use that. So it's a kind of combination of all that. But in the interest of time, let's move on to Providence section. We have 2 more sections to cover. So Tony, do you want to go over your slide?
Yeah, I'm Tony Rucco from the Providence section. We also found that the online capabilities, virtual meetings, things like that, did broaden access to other sections, other regions, things that we normally wouldn't have done. But the problem is now we're getting an even larger flood of emails. So instead of sometimes enhancing our ability to interact with other sections and other branches, we are competing with other sections and other branches for our own members. If there is a lunchtime meeting, you can only go to one. So if they decide to go to Maine's, which is great, then they can't go to ours. A lunchtime meeting in the mountain section is 2 p.m. in the East Coast. An evening section meeting on the East Coast is mid-afternoon on the West Coast. So again, it's great to have this interoperability and interconnectivity with the other sections, but it's just adding more and more to a flood of information to choose from. And you can have too much to choose from, too many choices. So that's something that some of our members have been talking about. Technology is good, and it's nice to have virtual meetings, but there's a significant social aspect that's being lost. We like to have our XCOM meetings being a dinner meeting, but the restaurant we go to doesn't have a hybrid capability to do that. So we can't have a virtual XCOM or a hybrid XCOM meeting the same way unless everybody brought their laptops or one person brought their laptop and try to use that as the central system, but then you find members yelling to be heard across the room and things. So the social aspects tend to be lost. Future plans, we're trying to get a lot more involvement with our student chapters. COVID basically put a halt on that because the students just weren't there. And the student participation went way down because their classes were all virtual. They were using IEEE to do things that were outside of classroom. But when outside of classroom is the same as in classroom, why bother? Our chapters are very active, but our section isn't. So trying to bring ideas in to get the section more active as a section instead of 6 individual chapters is something that we have future plan or we're trying to develop. And the thing that's hampering that is, let me politely say, we have an aging XCOM. And the problem with an aging XCOM is they don't have the new ideas you need to engage younger members, but you need younger members to get the new ideas, especially in an environment that is much more active than many of our aging members are willing to participate in. But I think that's just something we're going to have to deal with. In terms of, connectivity, as we lose members, we have one person that really knows how to use the listserv to maintain our XCOM list. When that person leaves, someone else is going to have to learn the tools. And a lot of our people don't want to learn the new tools simply because we don't want to use them. I'm not socially active in terms of all these tools that younger members use secondhand. I don't use Twitter as a regular thing. I don't use Facebook. I don't even like my smartphone. And there's a lot of other members like me on that. Our newer members use those things just inherent in their nature of being younger. You'll notice my background is a computer card. When I was a freshman, you needed to know Hollerith text. So that kind of shows you the age of our XCOM, and I'm not the oldest member of my XCOM. So again, we are having this distinct age gap forming, and I think that's kind of detrimental to our section growing moving forward.
Thank you very much, Tony. I think you also brought up a very important point about the diversity of IEEE membership. And one thing that works is that we need to have a diverse way of communicating with folks, right? So some people read emails, some are social media, some only look at the paper advertisement on the wall. So we need to kind of diversify to be able to reach to everybody. And that takes a toll on volunteers because you can't do all of that, right, in one shot.
Yeah. And the other thing we've noticed, especially among some of our younger members, is they want to see more social activities as part of IEEE. I know IEEE is, touts itself as being a technical society, but we've tried, some members of the XCOM tried to have just a social engagement. And we met a lot of flack from our members because IEEE is a technical society, not a social society. But again, some of that social engagement is really critical for our younger members who don't see the technical side of things the same way we do, where you did break work from social life and you had to go to IEEE to get technical information, where now you don't. And we're having a hard time for many of our members to get over that hump. That's it for Providence.
Okay, thank you again, Tony. So last slide we have is from Worcester section. I don't know if Ryan carries here or not.
No, he is not.
I see the vice chair here who might be the section chair next year. So maybe Larry can help us with this slide.
Yeah, I would say in general, Worcester is probably the inverse of Providence. We do have a diversity, well, a very divergent XCOM. So we've got the guys that are very old school, been around doing the IEEE for 20 plus years and have that old school mindset. But then we also have the ones that have only been in IEEE for a year or two. They're 23, 25-year-olds running stuff in the section. And what we found that does help us is we do tend to target more social type events. That does tend to get the younger people to show up. Our last event was an in-person event, outdoors. We did a summer picnic. We did it at a state park that had fishing and swimming activities. We had children. We had spouses show up. We actually had new members that we had never met before actually show up to this event because they were so pent up from the last 2 years with COVID that they came actually, I think, from the Binghamton section, and they had just moved to Worcester County and they wanted to get involved, and they loved that we were having an in-person social event that had nothing to do with technical. They just wanted to come out and see who there was. So we've wrapped them into our stuff. We found out they were working at Intel and that, they would be interested in computer society stuff. So having that pure social actually worked in our case to get members we had never seen before. And I mean, and these were members that we're talking the ages of like 29 to 35 that are coming out saying, hey, what are you guys up to? They're curious about technical, but they don't want to start with technical. They wouldn't have come if it was just a technical webinar. So we're seeing that, and that's part of the members eager to return in person. We had high turnout. For XCOM meetings and other meetings, we are going to hybrid. The hybrid meetings, the way we are handling it is we are going to a restaurant. We're having sit-down meals at the restaurant, and one person brings their laptop and a Bluetooth conference speaker microphone setup, which allows the entire room to talk. And when that entire room talks, everyone can hear each other, but there's only one camera to show what's going on in the main room. And that seems to be sufficient the way we've been doing the hybrids. I think we find 60% of people come in person, 40% of the people show up online right now. The ones that come in person are the older generation. They want to come and do the sit down and the meal. The younger generation, that they tend to live more than 20 minutes away from our location, they'd rather pop online and eat at home than come out for the meal. So we definitely see that divergent of the younger wants the digital, the older groups want the in-person physical. And with hybrid, we're getting high attendance as a result of it. And then in terms of the future plans, yeah, we're going to do a lot more of the video based stuff, and we are working to try to set up the first virtual chapter for Product Safety Engineering Society. That chapter has members across the world, and we did the petition to create the society and chapter, but a rule at MGA says you have to have all the members in the section physically, so their petition doesn't count. So we are going to work on fixing that, and in essence see if we need a human to override the process, or if we need to change the rules. I don't know which of the two it is yet, but we're going to do one of those two.
Thank you very much, Larry. So to kind of look into all these different threads that you saw in this presentation, you saw that virtual works, but there is a lot of details into that, how to run it, how to pick different things. There is a lot of energy that our volunteers are putting into this. I want to thank all our section chairs for putting this together. And I want to share one example with you to see when I mentioned you need to have good speakers.
A new battery in your probe.
If somebody has an open mic, that's becoming a problem.
Yeah, please everybody mute yourself if you're not talking. So here is one example that I want to show you is the upcoming September 9 event as part of Artificial Intelligence Age, to see what kind of speakers we get for that. It took almost the entire summer that one of our volunteers were harassing a retired US Navy admiral to accept to come about the cybersecurity. This is one of our speakers. Another volunteer has been working for over 6 months to get this FBI agent to come and talk about the importance of cybersecurity. And then we have a Computer Society distinguished visitor. This was probably easier to get. And we also have an industry person. So you need to have a diversified panel, people from industry, government, academia, get good people that people will come and listen to them. It's not that if I put myself as a speaker all the time, this is not going to work, right? So that is one thing I was going to share with everybody. But I'm going to stop here and see if there is any question, discussions for this presentation, Northeast. And if not, I hand it back to Ed to continue with other areas. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening.
Ed, before we move on, can I make one comment? Because I've been watching stuff in chat. And
yes, of course.
There has been a lot of discussion back and forth about how to manage listservs and how to load the emails automatically. I'm trying to figure out how to share a file to the group at the moment, but I use files all the time that contain lists of emails that get automatically, that I can load into the listserv. And so I'll share an example of that so that people have a better idea of how I manage the listservs for the region and how you might be able to do that for your section.
Greg, it's Pete. If you would, as you did with the last meeting, if you would, you had sent me because I can't from my computer, at the end of the meeting, a snapshot of the entire chat. I'll pull the bits and pieces out that really should be in the minutes and I'll stick them in. And one other comment, there is one of you is signed on only as a phone number, and I don't know who you are. And if you please, in the chat, please identify yourself so I can make sure you are recorded in the minutes. Thank you.
Eric Brown had to switch from his original login to a phone, and I believe he used the 585 number.
Okay, no, I have him down here from his original sign in. No problem. Okay, thank you.
Okay, my point, the only point that I want to make, by the way, thank you very much, and thank you very much from all those section chairs. The only point I'm going to make, and so IEEE is many things to many, many people, and it's meant to be many things to many people. So if we're having issue that we are thinking that this is the only thing IEEE is going to be or can be, you're limiting. As we have seen, unquestionably, the young professionals blend social, technical, everything, right? And so if we have this view that the only thing we do is one thing, then you know what, it becomes self-fulfilling, and that's all you do. And so force yourself to think IEEE can be anything, many things to many different people, and you have many different views and many different types within your section. If you're going to bring them in, you have to be a little bit more adaptive, right? Accepting. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Where's who's up next? I don't have the
Yeah, I believe it's central section. It's me. So I will start sharing my my content. Give me a second. All right, I believe you can all see my slides, and I will not, I'll try to bring it back to the time. I mean, I know we had spending a lot of time in the discussions, but it's also a Sunday morning, so in the interest of time, I'll be making the presentations rather than going to the going to the section chairs, who has thankfully supplied me all the materials. And so I'll just try to keep it as brief as possible. So quickly, this is our this is the central area, and so Ali, I don't want to get into a border dispute with you, but there are two parts of Massachusetts which actually in the central area. So quickly to run down the list: the Berkshire section, Green Mountain section, Mid Hudson section, and Mohawk Valley sections, Schenectady and Springfield sections. Welcome to this meeting, and thank you for all patience with me during this pandemic and supplying me all your information whenever I need it. So I will quickly and very quickly go through what we have discussed like 6 months back. And 6 months back, we are just learning kind of what's going on. So when you talked about membership engagement, people say, hey, we are seeing a lot of people attending the virtual meetings. And there are some recommendations that we should have it during the week hours because people do not like to attend evening meetings. And following some of the comments in the Northeast section, I also found that people still believe that too many meetings, adjusting time is also difficult. Another comment that I found, which was like last time, was that getting folks from both intergenerational, both the young people and the people who have been IEEE members for a long time to engage together. And there were some recommendations last time to have meetings within the sectional activities, etc. Okay, and there were some questions on the leadership development. Some people had complaints 6 months back that personal and face-to-face engagements were not happening, and so leadership developments are not happening as much, and similar comments about identifying volunteers and etc. Okay, so 6 months back, this is where we were in February when we met last time. Now let's see what we have learned and how much we have progressed from that. Okay, so this is from the from Krishan from the Schenectady section, and as you can see, there are lot of activities going on. All of them are virtual. They are part of the lot of activities, technology activities, nanotechnology happening there. So they are taking advantages of those things. However, not all section chapters are actively working and arranging minimum required 2 technical meetings. And this is something as section chairs, I guess I should reiterate, and I have a summary slide for that. That first of all, you need to enter everything in your vTools. And people can co-sponsor to have those 2 technical activities. So you don't have to do it completely go all by your own, but you can actually put things together, okay? And also there are some comments about less enthusiasm from section chapter volunteers, which it seems that things did not change much in the 6 months since we had these discussions, and maybe we should do something more, both from section level as well as regional level, okay? So from the Berkshire section, Richard has gave me a list of section activities, lot PACE activities. The XCOM meetings are all virtual and kind of some in person, I guess, as people have been getting vaccinated and trying to meet together. As Greg has pointed out, things are started happening. There are activities of some section affinity groups as well, and some in-person meeting as well. However, again, some similar themes that leadership developments have been an issues, and membership development also have been issues because apparently the pandemic and quarantine did not help in this case. Okay, let's look into what Rashid said from Mid Hudson section, and some of the things Rashid just sent me 2 minutes back, and I have just included them here in this chart. So it's things are happening, as you can see, and we are kind of updating things, you're learning things, okay? So there was a section award event happened. There has been EDS virtual section semiconductor design, and there are some IEEE meet at the Computer Society events in the SUNY New Paltz, and if those are the things you're interested, I guess you can contact me or Rashid, and you can possibly attend. And Rashid has been very diligent about sending those. I'm actually getting a lot of e-notices from Rashid about all the events, so I'm getting to know what is happening in the May-Hudson section. Okay. So Judy from the Green Mountain section, again. Similar themes, not much has changed due to the, since last 6 months. People have been, kind of still engaged, kind of just getting out. And there are a lot of things as people are getting out from their quarantine. Maybe IEEE is not the first thing in their mind. Possibly they want to do something else. They want to meet their relatives or meet their friends, or have some long-awaited party or something rather than IEEE. So, but as people settle down, and hopefully, Delta variants most possibly it does not take so much root. So, most likely things might like to improve. Okay. Judy has made a request that sometimes it's very difficult for the IEEE merchandise to get. So, Judy, this is something I can possibly work with you. To see what is exactly your problem, and maybe we can try to solve it. I mean, this is possibly something we can do on one basis, unless this is a across the region problem. Okay. All right. So quickly, if you look back, what happened 6 months back, and February, how we are doing things, and February was like almost a year after. Staying in the pandemic domain, and then we are trying to meet people, and then 6 months after that, right? So most sections got, again, the impacted COVID to organize any in-person activities. You saw some of them are kind of coming out, but not all of them. Okay. However, as we have seen 6 months back, we are having a lot of virtual seminars, classes, and activities. Okay, and student chapter activities are still not happening because for the whole of last year, students were not in campus. So you cannot just approach them if they're not on campus. Okay, I mean, for students, it's sometimes difficult to attend, ask them to come in a virtual meeting because you don't know who the people are. Okay. Also, so things might change as you heard from Greg and Ed, that students are coming back, and also from Ali that students are coming back to campus, so things are expected to change, and it's maybe it's a time to take advantage of that. Leadership, membership development activities are also impacted because of lack of in-person meetings. Again, we heard that from several section leaders in the previous talk with Ali as well. Okay. However, and this is something I just want to point out. Some sections, particularly the Mohawk Valley section, and we also heard the main section, have actually been very active into leadership developments and leadership transitions. Okay, so maybe we all have something to learn, both from the Mohawk Valley section as well as the main section. So maybe Ali, just a proposal. Just I thought while the main section leader was proposing, maybe we should have a separate seminar where both the Mohawk Valley section and main section can make a presentation to all other section leaders sometime, maybe not, where they can actually share their experience and how they are doing it, and all the other sections can possibly learn. I mean, including me, I would like to learn from them as well. Okay. Okay, this is something I mentioned in the last meeting, that the homepage actually did not reflect all the new chairs that are coming in, so that needs to be taken care of. Okay. However, for suggestions, we need to, as Greg had pointed out in his director-led talk, this is a reality. This virtual is a reality. Okay, we can hope that will be coming out and there will be, but this is the current reality. So we have to make it work. Okay, so we cannot just say, hey, it's not we cannot have new members, we cannot have elevate membership, or you cannot recruit potential leaders because we cannot do that while sitting kind of quarantined at home. We have to make this work. Okay, we all have to be. We are all in there together. We all have to make this work. Okay, so this is the bottom line. Okay, folks. So use the virtual workshop to make new members, elevate memberships, or recruit potential new leaders. Okay, and this is again I mentioned at the beginning. Put everything in the vTools. Okay, so if you and also co-sponsor activities. Okay. And this is how we can possibly all be together and survive. So that's all from my for the central area. Any of the central chairs may like to add anything or have any questions or comments, please feel free.
Maharaj, it's Pete.
Yes,
have Judith get in touch with me about purchasing IEEE merchandise, because I've done a lot of purchasing over the years for the region, shirts, all sorts of stuff that I've done, and I have some contacts. If she gets in touch with me, I'll see if I can help her out.
Okay,
I
great.
will call you, Peter. Don't you worry.
Thank you. Okay.
You got in trouble yourself, but thank you.
I have a question.
Anything else, anybody?
I have a question.
All right.
That is, given the amount of discussions we're having in vTools, should the region set up a vTool workshop and tutorial online so that as an activity, we can schedule it? I can get IEEE people to do that for us at some point.
Excellent suggestions. I think that's, yeah. I mean, it's not just, one thing I just wanted to point out that we need to have not only vTools training for the section leaders, but other leaders who will become a section leader and will have access to the vTools sometimes. So they should have this training.
Our virtual sessions are open to everybody in the region. I mean, that's one of the things that we have said, right? So if we establish, and I can always get Vera or I can get somebody from IEEE to run it, and then we can also record it, and then we can also place it on. And is there any other tool that I should be doing there besides the vTools? No, well, look, so let's just say, let's not talk about it now, let's think about it. But if we need to do that, Greg and I can go into the IEEE. The answer will be yes, by the way, immediately. And the only question is, when do we set it up, and how far we set it up and how much do we advertise it? But the answer is always yes, by the way, if we ask for that kind of support. So I'm more than happy to do that. Let's just keep going. Okay, so I have gotten now to regions. Who's the next one, Greg?
Who is the next one?
I believe it's me, Joe Ott, Western area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. As long as I'm just trying to figure out there we go.
Okay.
All right. I did this a little bit different than the previous area chairs. I contacted all my section chairs, and then I just kind of put it all together because there's a lot of common themes, and instead of repeating things on multiple slides, I just kind of compress it. I noticed I have several or most of my section chairs here. If I miss anything from your section that you sent in, feel free to chime in and add it in. So what have we learned? I think everybody's learned how to hold virtual meetings. As has been mentioned before, it allows a little bit more flexibility in timing. Be able, different types of meetings. The XComs technical have, been talked about. Some of the sections also have limited success with some social virtual meetings. And as Greg pointed out, Syracuse had a recognition, the recognition via virtual meetings. Some of the sections have been doing the hybrid XCOM prior to the pandemic, so switching to complete virtual meeting for XCOM seemed to have been pretty easy for them. Others kind of struggled with it, but they've all learned how to do it. Having the virtual meetings, we've been seeing a lot more collaboration between sections in and outside the region. One of the benefits that we've seen from this is people who are setting up the technical meetings are increasing their networking capabilities because they're now communicating and working with people outside the sections and similar technologies. So they're finding that they're gathering new contacts, and they have expressed that that's a good thing. Engaging new members, there's kind of good news and bad news on that. Some sections have indicated that going with the virtual XCOM meeting, that they've noticed some new faces showing up at the XCOM meetings, and they've been able to engage them as volunteers, increasing the number of volunteers in the section, which is good. Some sections have found it hard to engage members when it's all virtual, especially the younger members. Things that we need to work out. And holding hybrid meetings has its challenges, as I think Greg pointed out. A lot of the classrooms are already kind of wired for hybrid meetings, but there are some technical challenges. I heard somebody said that when they have their hybrid meeting, somebody brings a Bluetooth conference audio-visual device to the meeting, which helps. And that's probably one of the biggest things is we have a virtual meeting at like a restaurant where they're not really wired for a hybrid meeting. You kind of need to bring your own equipment, and sometimes that's a challenge. Also, when you go into new venues, understanding what the masking requirements are, because they're changing on a daily basis. And one of the sections actually have noticed that a pushback when they want to go back to in-person meetings. A lot of people have gotten used to the virtual meetings, as some people say it's a lot easier to attend the virtual meeting from home without having to drive a longer distance. So these are all kind of some of the challenges they have with hybrid meetings. We did have one section that had there's been some in-person events, but the one that was held recently down in Binghamton was their IEEE Disc Golf Open and Cornhole event, and that was a pretty good event. Myself and a couple other area chairs were down there to support them, and I think everybody had a good time. And again, it was good engagement, good to engage people in a social aspect. Going forward, I think a lot of people want to continue to collaborate with other sections because you're able to bring a broader, or more opportunities, more events back to your own sections. And again, you're able to share those events that you're doing with a wider audience. So people like to continue collaborating with other sections. A lot of people are still trying to learn how to do hybrid meetings. And a lot. I think that if the sections can share their successes and issues, I think like I said, when you're having a hybrid meeting, you're meeting at a restaurant. What are some of the best practices? Somebody mentioned a Bluetooth conferencing device. What are the suggestions there? What are the takeaways when you're using it? The other thing is learn how to engage your members, including students. Some sections have been able to do it, some sections haven't. Again, if the sections can share their successes and issues, I think that'd be good, because not all sections are the same, and what works in one section may not. And I think a lot of it's going to be trial and error, but I think some sections have figured it out, and it'd be nice if we could share it with others. A lot of sections are learning how to enhance their social media presence, not just the V tools, but the Facebook and LinkedIn, the Twitter, all these different social media platforms. Some sections are doing a good job of pushing their message out on the social medias. Others still need to work on that. Again, I'd just like to say, we have so many sections in the region, and some sections are doing well in one area, and some sections could use help. And if we just kind of share the session, share the section successes so people can benefit. Not quite sure how we could do that yet. I do know there's that Board of Governors listserv. I don't know if that'd be appropriate or whether it would be some other platform we can use where a section can say, hey, we're having, we're looking to do this, and other sections can respond with things that they've tried and whether it worked or not. Also, as many people indicated, students are starting to return to campus, and hopefully they'll be able to stay on campus this time. But a lot of sections are trying to re-engage their students as they come back to the campus. So at this point in time, I'd like to invite any of my area chairs if they wanted to add anything to this presentation, or if they have anything I missed, they can chime in. Any other questions?
I think that you bring a point, and let me just say, outside the United States, okay, and it's always good to look at other areas. Successful sections have very active engagement with student activities. Now, it may be because in many cases, students are a large portion of their membership, but they find student activities inherently involved in section activities. As a matter of fact, they don't necessarily, keep them that separate, right? So to your point, getting engaged, getting students into the mainstream may significantly help you, especially in the areas where those of us who are older are having difficulties, right? In virtual engagement, social activities, and things of that nature. But I keep going to say, if you look around your leadership team, and if everybody in your leadership team looks like you, thinks like you, you're going to have problems, right? I mean, we need to, you need to have to kind of bring in, a diverse set of people into the leadership and give them leadership positions, and allow them to, spouse, a different view. If not, like I tell everybody, my next promotion in IEEE from, senior life member will be senior dead member, right? And so let me just say, we need to bring, those varying views and the multiple varying views into the organization. If not, I think that we will find ourselves having a tougher and tougher time. So thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any comments? Still, Sandy, I think you're on. I think you're on, Sandy. You may be muted, but I think you're on. Are you here?
He was.
Oh. He was on. I have him listed. I don't see him right now on the list of attendees, but he was.
He's there. He's at the
I
top.
see slides, but I don't hear voice. So
I sent him a request to turn his mic on.
Okay. Sorry about that. So are my slides up?
no, they were, but for whatever reason, right now, I have a blank. I have a gray screen.
Okay, sorry, hang on.
While Sandy's pulling up his slides, I sent a chat to everyone. Please, those of you who have not sent your presentations to Greg for storage on our website or in YouTube, wherever we put them, please send them, because I do refer to them in the minutes as well. And whoever reads the minutes have to have access to these slides. Please send them to Greg. Thanks.
Let me say you were on momentarily. You flashed on and then you grayed out.
Just goes to show you we're not quite there yet.
So,
Now we're on.
I have to admit, I've been in the office every day during the pandemic because I touch equipment, so I'm not as savvy. So you hear me, you still don't see my slides?
We just see it's not in presentation mode, but it's in, you know.
Your slides are on. Your slides are on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, the southern area has some more challenges, I believe, than some of the other areas. Due to the fact that the southern area is a higher cost area, and we're losing more members, I believe, than the other areas. So I believe some of the challenges we're having may not be pandemic specifically, you know, like losing members and not finding volunteers and not finding officer candidates. I think the pandemic may have exacerbated it. So anyway, the southern area is made up of Connecticut, New Jersey coast, Long Island, New York, North Jersey, Princeton, and Princeton, Central Jersey. And my chairs are Oscar Tonello from Connecticut, Irfan Latif from the New Jersey coast, Arnie Stillman from Long Island, Bob Pellegrino from New York, AJ Podar from North Jersey, and Deepak Kakaria from Princeton, Central Jersey. I believe I only have 3 of them on the line, Oscar, Bob, and AJ. So I tried to consolidate some of the comments that I got from everyone. So this next slide that I just put up, this was, I know it's a little wordy, but I think it was really good. What happened is AJ came up with this, so I want to give him credit for it because it kind of summarizes. And again, a lot of these comments are going to be touching on what everyone's really been saying already. But one of the things that the pandemic has brought out is, yes, for technical, it's great, and you get a lot of people. But for non-technical, we're losing the section touch. So as AJ said, we're also losing the connection to students, and that's obvious because they haven't been on campus. So hopefully when they get back on campus, we need to fix that bridge. But anyway, so not being able to motivate or engage student volunteers effectively or recruit new volunteers. So and some of the comments I've just heard is I guess some of our sections need to figure out how to recruit volunteers and members, if you will, in a virtual environment. While I would be interested in some of the recommendations, because it's not obvious to me to how to recruit student volunteers or new volunteers virtually. So like AJ said, they had a record number of technical events during the pandemic, and they had a record number of people attending. And that goes back to the, you know, good technical content will bring a lot of people. And I think we all know that that's going to be a portion of the future of the IEEE. But we need to figure out how to supplement that. So that'll be a new pillar for the IEEE, but we need more. And so he also says that the attendance graph is declining. I'm not sure about that. I still think it always goes back to good technical content brings people, and so if it's not good technical content, maybe it's waning. But anyway, so another my second bullet there is so we have had some virtual symposiums, and this is the one area where virtual doesn't work, is when you're talking exhibitors, sales reps, companies trying to sell things, you know, in the working engineer environment. Virtual doesn't work. They need to engage with their customer. They need to show them equipment, parts, things, and a lot of these virtual symposiums, they put them off in a side room, and nobody engages them. And it goes back to the saying with companies like that is somebody will call you when they need something yesterday, but other than that, they don't call you. So anyway, that was my slide there. The next slide. So again, some of these bullets are going to coincide with other bullets before. But of course, good technical meetings are great, and we need to build on that. And for some sections, it means more VTools training. So what I've seen some volunteers, now when I say the volunteers that need this training, I'm talking about chapter chairs and affinity chairs, because some of those people aren't as good at VTools, and especially without naming some sections, I end up doing L31s and meeting reports for people because they don't know how to do them. So we need to be able to get them in a mindset that, oh, you need to go on VTools. You need to see what other meetings are out there now, because now in a virtual environment, co-sponsoring them and having a lot of attendees is good, and people want that. So I think the next bullet has also been said before, is that no face-to-face meetings crimp new volunteers, the finding of new volunteers. But again, I think we need to figure out how to find new volunteers virtually. The next bullet about face-to-face and virtual. So the answer to that one is that there are some sections that are going to be able to do hybrid meetings by themselves tomorrow, or they're doing it already. And there are other sections that are going to need help. So we're going to have to reach out to the sections that aren't as capable. And like I think Greg said, yeah, if you're having a meeting at a college, everything's in place already. If you're having a meeting at a restaurant, or if you're having a meeting even in a local company, they may not have that ability. So again, I'll repeat that I believe that the link with students is broken and it needs to be fixed. And then my last bullet is that I'm trying to reiterate is so we have some sections in the southern area that are recycling officers. We had to strong arm some officers to stay in, and that's not good for long-term success. And again, I think it's like grassroots. We got to get out and find volunteers. We got to find officers. I know in my section, the last few cycles, we've actually gone over the list of members and looked for capable people and really recruited them to be officers, because, no one's coming to us anymore to be an officer. So anyway, I think Oscar, AJ, and Bob Pellegrino are on the line. I'm going to defer to them if they have any comments.
Yeah. Hello, Sandy. I'm Ajay here. Thank you for putting the points. My observation was following. In last year, to like 2019 or 2020, there was no option because of COVID restriction. Nobody can go anywhere. So we see the attendance like there was one talk I invited Dalai Lama. That the attendance was like 50,000 because all over the world people can attend it. So slowly, if you see this year, there was one speaker was speaking. There's multiple talks and Zoom at the same time. So we see the registration like 700, 600, 200, sometimes 50, but attendance will be in the vicinity of like 40, 50. So people registers on the Zoom. I cannot blame them because they have multiple events going on prior to like 1 month or 3 to 4 weeks in advance. They register, but since the conflict with the time, nobody attends. So that is the perspective I'm saying declining. But of course, it is better than attendance what we hold the meeting in person. Second thing, qualitative, what I'm saying, if we have a in-person meeting, if new attendance like students and other people comes, we request them to become the member, and we see the 50 to 70% success rate. In Zoom meeting, everybody said, then you send the email, nothing comes out. So we have to accommodate the virtual meeting because it helps a lot of hours and a lot of resources to conduct. But somewhere we have to make a hybrid in-person meeting, at least alternate month. Otherwise, we lose the qualitative aspect of the meeting. That's what my understanding of losing the attendance. I have attendance graph. If you see probably we have in our section, we have every week 2 meetings. So on an average, we have 70, 80 events in the section, in a year, along like 3-4 chapters. We do every week, but our attendance was like 300 to 400. Now it's at 50. So other section, if we compare the event like 20 people attending, no, we are not. We are always having 50 to 100 people attending. but the graph is declining from 300 to 50. That's what I mean.
Okay, thank you. Oscar or Bob, do you have any comments?
Yeah, hi, thanks. Bob, you want to talk, Bob? Then I'll say
No,
something.
go ahead, Oscar.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Sandy. Just as I mentioned to you in the email, very strange. All of your emails went into spam. I don't know if others run into these problems, only Sandy's. And I would have never looked into it if just by accident I went to look. It's incredible. So in 2020 March, that it was Friday the 13th when everything went into shutdown. It's very easy to remember. And just a few days prior, we had our last in-person XCOM meeting. And after that, we were like deer in the headlights. We were just coasting, not knowing what to do. And finally came the fall, and we had a small group meeting, and we said, we have to get reorganized. This is here to stay. So we organized our PACE meeting, which would have been in the fall, and we just slowly, methodically went to learn about Zoom, about WebEx, who is going to be doing what, and so on. And we had no activities until we figured it out. So what works for us is we would have a small group meeting, 3 or 4 of us, to organize anything, a different group for a different purpose. This one was in particular for PACE for January to break the ice. And it would be like on a Sunday, 10 a.m., we would have coffee for an hour, and we wouldn't give each other tasks and disperse, because that's where it stays. It stays dispersed. We would go find the speaker, find the presentation, all of that during the meeting. We would send emails during the meeting. Everything would be done in 1 hour where no one had to do anything. It's all set to go. And that has really worked out well for us. And then in terms of attendance, that's a problem. But, Connecticut had a problem with attendance always, because we have Hartford, where we have a concentration. Then we do something in Fairfield or in Stamford. Only people from that area come, and no one comes from the south, north, and vice versa. So doing a hybrid meeting, that we realized that this would be a bonus for us when we can go back in person. Right now, it's all still virtual. It has been since a year and a half ago, as we all know. And then one other thing that we used to do live was recruiting senior members, because the section recommends them, and that is one. And then there are 2 more references of our senior members, and we got 5 of them back in April. And Florida does an excellent job with that, and we somehow got in touch with Florida to teach us how to do it. And it was so intense, we got burnt out. May and June, we had no energy to do anything else. And really, I believe in person would not have been like this. It would have been much more encouraging. So that's how we see that. XCOM has been very strong, always virtual or in person, I have to say. And somehow, don't ask me how, it fell from the sky. Our young professionals not only have a chair, they have a vice chair, and they are really strong. They are putting all of them by themselves at their own initiative, a town hall, virtual town hall with our 1,500 members for September. As we speak, they are having a meeting that I cannot attend, but they are doing a great job themselves. And it's our 100th anniversary of the founding of the Connecticut section this year. And I'm afraid that we will have to postpone the in-person celebration, which we were going to do during our AGM in October. I just don't see, nothing is going to be better by October for sure. So overall, a pretty diverse and active section, and we had a few new volunteers, which was refreshing. It would have been better if we had more, but we take what we can get. And the cross-pollination with other sections which started doing this. We had a meeting with New Hampshire together, and then we did not get the greatest attendance. So I suppose the key is keep on doing, but 50, oh, that would have been great. Normally we have 10 and that's it. Hardly ever 15. So that's our problem. Well, there you go. I don't want to repeat other things. It is very similar to what we are experiencing, and these were just a few tidbits that may help you guys with some ideas, things that worked out. Okay, Bob, I'll let you
Bob,
be.
do you want to say something?
Yep, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so the New York section has been actually very busy between in 2020 and increased activity in actually 2021. Once we learned that we could do the WebEx meetings, hold these virtual WebEx meetings, I just kept encouraging our society chapter chairs and our other members of the XCOM to hold their meetings, the young professionals and the we chair, to have the virtual meetings, and everyone just stepped up and responded. So our lessons learned real quick: better attendance at section XCOM meetings and society chapter meetings. Chapter chairs requested from me to advertise their meetings to other section society chapters. And because I have, I'm like the V-Tools person in the New York section, I was able to advertise a certain chapter meeting, like a communications chapter chair requested a number of times for me to advertise his meetings to other section chairs in our area. Lessons learned, another point is scheduling time of the day for the meeting is important. I used to have my XCOM meetings during noon, and believe it or not, there were a lot of section XCOM members who had meetings, company meetings during their lunch break. So I started to try to have our XCOM meeting, say, at 5 p.m., and that turned out to be better. With virtual meetings, we can reach out to more members, so I believe we should continue that. The lunch and learn technical training sessions we had with Kohler Power Systems were very popular. We had over 100 plus attendees at every meeting. And then I was able to open that up, thanks to Ed and Greg. We opened it up to the region, and we did get some other sections in the region to have their members attend this Kohler Power Systems training sessions, which was very positive, I think, for our membership. It's difficult, as other members have said today, difficult to engage with student chapters due to school closings and reduced student attendance on campus. So that was basically non-existent. And another positive thing we had was an increase in senior member upgrades. So I received a number of emails from our New York section members to upgrade to senior member. So I found myself pushing forward a number of senior member upgrades in the past couple of years. As far as future plans, we want to continue definitely with virtual section XCOM meetings, and I will still encourage my society chapter chairs to continue with their technical meetings, which they have been doing. Also, we will look to other industrial companies to hold technical training sessions for our IEEE members of the New York section, similar to what Kohler Power Systems did for us. And we will try to engage student chapters as students return to campus. And one last point on hybrid meetings, I think it's questionable because where you have your in-person meeting, you really need to have the video equipment to hold the virtual part of it. So it depends on where you have your hybrid meeting. If it's at a university, yes, as was said earlier, they have the equipment to do it. But if you have it at a restaurant, you have it at, I don't know, somebody's house or library or something, you really have to depend on equipment to hold your hybrid meeting. So I don't really see that as a really good way going forward. It's either going to be virtual or hopefully back to in-person meetings. And I'd like to thank Ed and members of the Region 1 board for having this board meeting and for having us today. And thank you, Sandy, for putting together the slide and for all your work that you've been doing and helping us.
No worries, Bob. Ed, it's yours. Greg?
I think that, it's interesting. Let me just say to the folks that an investment of a camera, it's $40, 40, $50. An investment of a microphone is, 40, $50. It may be worthwhile for sections to think of, section related investment to allow these things to happen. They're not a lot of money. The region can help, but we're not talking about a lot of money. But I think that eventually you will find yourself the right modem for you. Right? All I'm saying is don't write off different ways to connect. It may not. We will. I don't believe we'll ever go to any one specific modality. We're not all going to go back to persons, and we're not all going to go back to only hybrid, and we're all going to go back to just virtual. I think that we're going to do what makes sense at the time and expand. And so I think that's where we're heading. Okay, folks, let's take a quick 5-minute break. Let's come back at 10:45. That way we can get coffee and whatever else you got to do, upload or download. And let's come back here at 10:45. I think that many of you have already told your future plans, so maybe that the second half presentation may be a lot quicker than I think. So I think we're on track. When we come back, we're going to hear us from the affinity group. So let's get back at 10:45. So welcome back. I hope some people are back. Yes, I do know we have a HKN induction that's scheduled at a fixed time. We may have to come back and if we get done early. Okay, let's see where the heck are we?
We are up to student activities.
So soon? Are you there? If you are, you got to unmute yourself. Let's hope soon gets here soon. There he is. You are here as I am here, as we are here, and we're all together.
Okay, let me try to share my presentation from here.
So we're going to now hear from affinities. Go ahead. Students.
Okay, you guys can see the slide.
Yes.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Sun Wan, the Region 1 Student Activity Committee Chair. So what I'm going to do briefly show you what's going on in our Region 1 membership, in particularly to the student members, right? So in Region 1, we have 22 sections, about 21,155 active members. Got declined if compared to the last year. Then we do have 171 student branches, and currently I'm aware that there's 2 new student branches are in the process of they completed their petition, so they're pending on the MGA approval in November board, I believe. Then as July, we have 2,299 active student member. That includes the graduate student member. So that got declined if you compare to last year, got declined about 176 members. So the student membership continue to decline. So we have most decline last year, and this year we continue to decline. So this will give you the overview of what's going on with all the 10 regions in IEEE. So you can see that in Region 1, the undergrad student, we have a 8.4% decline as compared to last year. So that's quite a significant number of reduction in our undergrad student member. So what happened to the student, the Region 1 student conference? So last year, this conference was canceled. So that probably may be part of the reason why the student membership was actually declined. But obviously there's many reasons for that, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic. All schools were shut down last year. Student branch can't do anything, and students are all over the place around the world. It's very tough to try to set up a virtual meeting or even get together. So last year, the student conference was canceled. This year, we decided to go virtual because I don't want to cancel it again. Then we're actually going to lose the students' momentum and engagement. So since this year is a virtual format, right? So we suggested that we actually can spread out the program over servers, weekends, even the days. So we also actually have different student branch help out as well. So this is kind of the list of the programs that we actually have planned and set out over the spring and into this summer of this year. Unfortunately, there's a lot of cancellation. The student paper contest, we did not get a lot of submission, so that was decided to cancel. Then the micro malls, obviously we can't compete physically, So we had suggested that we do the engineering design section. So basically, the student came up their design, then they present how their design works and how the mouse actually solve the maze. But that got canceled too because we only got 1 or 2 participants registered. Then student edit content we didn't actually pursue. Realized that perhaps there's no interest in that because the student branch students are not going back to school, and many of the students actually don't want to do it virtually for any content. But a very successful program is actually for NYIT, so that they have this industrial leaders lecture series, so they get quite a lot of attendance. But that is actually open up to not just students, but to general members in Region 1 and around, of course, to other regions as well. So we also have a service workshop for this program. So many of the workshops are not well attended. The attendance is between about 10 to 15. So I don't know. We have the virtual conference. So it's just that the participant is not at that level that we wish to. So some assisting the student activity community program, just to quickly run through the list. So the extreme competition, the SPAD, the virtual speaker bureau award program. This year we have 1 student branch submitted the 2 nominations for this award. One is the student branch award, the other one is the web page award, and the potential magazine. These are some a short list of all those existing programs, set of programs that we can offer to the student member and the student branch. So these are the list of the new programs that the SET committee are working on. Right, they realize that student membership are continuously declining, so they want to come up with a plan to retain and recovery. Then they also have a plan to try student to young professional transition. Then they want to come up with a plan to how can we get students to engage the industry. Then data management program. There's some program that actually target just for U.S. United States student members. Then also the lastly is the branch officer and training program. So all these new programs are in development. I'm working with the student activity committee, the SET, to try to develop all these programs. So during this year, I do a lot of Zoom meet with servers, student branch officers, some faculty advisors, and some section chair. So recently, I drove down to Albany and actually met in person with a student and officer from the University of Albany. So during all this Zoom or in-person meeting, I asked the student branch, are you guys still active? Many of them say no, right? Do they do remote events? They say not much, all right? So I say, okay, what do you guys want and how can students help? So this is a few things I quickly just list out here, what the COVID-19 pandemic have impacted the student branch. So basically last year, all the in-person meeting activity program all was canceled, right, to actually up to this year's spring. Even though a lot of many schools, they are going to open it up in fall, right, they allow the student to come in, but the student doesn't have they're going to take time to try to figure out what they want to do in the fall, maybe into the next year. And of course, there are a lot of students, they're still very uncertain what's going to be happening, right? Because of the Delta variants, and now especially, for example, the MIT conference, we're supposed to do a hybrid, but the student, even though MIT is open, but the student was concerned that in 2 months the campus may shut down for public events. So they decided that why not we focus just on full remote virtual conference instead to, let's say, we plan for in-person or the hybrid, and then now at the last minute we had to ship everything to full remote. That's one of the reasons why many of student branch that they don't know what will be happen, what's going to be happen in the next 2 or 3 months. So they are like very unreluctant to try to organize any activity yet. So a lot of new initiative was also put on hold. Then because of the uncertainty what's going on, then a lot of them are unable to hold new member drive orientation. When the school have a freshman orientation, they also got restricted to number of activity or number of events they actually given to meet the new students. Then, of course, the IEEE visibility has significantly reduced. So, so without reaching out to freshmen, freshmen may not know there's actually IEEE out there. Or even the school they didn't even know that the school actually have a IEEE student branch. So students are not renewing their membership. It's because partly there's no activity. There's no activity, they kind of felt there's no benefit at all. Right? So funding and budget are still available when most student branch, right? The school still give the student branch a budget. Even some of the student branch was actually heavily supported by the local section, but they actually did not use. So I asked the student what the student or the student branch want, right? Actually interesting, they say no more remote meeting or event. As what I heard from Anthony from the province session, it says a lot of young members need more social meeting. So I mean, students had too much Zoom for classes, since last year, right? So they actually just want to really meet, right? So they don't want to you have so many remote meetings. They are not very many of them are actually interested at all. Then COVID-19. It's kind of over now. Then the this in-person activity and meeting, I'm not quite sure what is this mean. Okay. The next, is it over now? Okay. It's actually right now. The COVID-19 pandemic is right now, right? So all the students actually miss the in-person activity and the meeting. Obviously, I mean the same statement as the earlier point. They all like to be social. Then the third one actually is quite very interesting. They actually want recognition of their work, their research at the school, because a lot of the students they do a lot of research and do a lot of great work, not just for the research for their classes, but also for some local community, right, services and those things. They want the kind of recognition. So not only from the school, maybe perhaps IEEE actually can give them a recognition. That's where I brought up the award. It's actually one of the benefit actually we can try to organize recognize this student contribution to their schoolwork as well as to their local communities. Then lastly, they want to have opportunity to connect to the industry. Right. So I did mention some of suggestions of how I can actually help them or the Region 1. So reaching out to other student branch, actually try to promote their activity and program. Then not only from what I have learned from other student branch, so I always share that if this student branch have done well on this program, perhaps you guys can consider look into it or have them actually connect some of the student branch together so that they actually can collaborate together. They also support and mentoring new initiative and program. Whenever I learn something, this is interesting, so maybe I will suggest some of how they actually should do it and how to support their initiative. Then training. This is also part of lagging behind in most of the student branch. They didn't even know they had to report their officers. They didn't even know there's actually a nomination for IEEE Student Branch Award. So a lot of these things we have to really talk to them and find out what they don't know. just keep giving them information, then all of a sudden they get to know. Then from there, they actually will spread the word out to their student members. Competition. Interesting that many of them, they are not interested for the prize. As I mentioned earlier, they actually like to be recognized rather than, oh, I win $1,000. But it's better to put on a resume that won the first place in this micro mouse competition at this IEEE Region 1. So that is a better recognition than getting the prizes. Obviously, sometimes we put the prize as the attraction to get more participants. That's why we had to put the prizes in there. Then the lastly, we can actually provide some publication support for their research award at school. All right, so one of the good program is the MIT student branch. Right now, this is their 7 years they're doing the undergrad research technology conference. So basically, they're accepting a paper from undergrad students, in fact, including high school students. A lot of high school students, their senior actually have some collaboration with the undergrad program, right? So they actually wrote and submitted the paper. I think this is kind of good that we try to reach out even to the high school students. The earlier we can reach out to them and tell them what IEEE can help when they get into their colleges, I think that will be very useful and perhaps going to help the student membership. Okay, all right, almost done. Okay, so section chair and even the section set chair. So this is why I could use some of your help. All right. So reach out to your student branch and their officer. All right. We have 171 student branches in Region 1. I wish I can visit all of them, talk to them all. Right. But I do have a full-time job here. In fact, I'm now at work right now. So I need you guys to try to reach out to the student branch. Talk to them. Because they may not know you, there is a local section there actually they can seek support and help. All right, so reach out to them if they have any problem or you think that soon or the Region 1 can help, let me know. All right, they always offer help to host a virtual membership drive, right? Because right now the students are not really thinking about getting new members. They're all along is the thought, they kind of lost the momentum. There's no activity. They don't even want to really bother to try to get new members. Right, and perhaps the section also can try to help to host the event with the student branch. Right, such as the recently, this was actually released last year, the Virtual Speaker Bureau. So basically you can select the speakers from the VSP site, then work with the student branch and you can set up that virtual event. Okay, this is our two new Region 1 student representatives, Sulaiman and Florina. So they have been helping me to try to reach out to students, try to engage students through social media. So, that's all I have. Questions?
Yes, soon. Do you think you could reach out to the Connecticut section, student chapter Dave, and then he will have a Zoom meeting and give him your Region 1 perspective? They are active, but I'm sure they would appreciate all the experience that you have received from others and ideas. But that would be really great if you could do a one-on-one, so you don't have to travel, but a Zoom meeting would be great.
Sure, that would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about visiting you guys too. Remember
Yes, please do. Yes.
You I should talk to them.
Yeah, you and I communicated in the past. You didn't have Dave's information, but I believe that now you do. And if you have trouble, let me know. But this is really a shout out to everybody in Region 1. I think it's a big deal for the section when someone from Region 1 that handles certain has certain positions comes to us. For example, Ed came to our annual general meeting. It was great to hear from the director and his perspective of Region 1 at the section level. Bob came a few times, Sandy came. That it brings a lot of positive energy in the section, and it shows that Region 1 really cares. So we will definitely keep inviting you, which we have been doing, but also on your own, feel free to reach out to not just Connecticut, to other sections as well. I could see the positive energy after that, and it's certainly very helpful. So that's all I had. Thank you, Soon. That was a great presentation. Appreciate it.
Soon and Greg, I had a question. Normally we have one student representative. I believe her name is Lynn. Ms. Lynn is presently the student rep, although you have two young ladies shown in your last slide. Are we making a change Greg, that we will have two student representatives in the future? And I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Will these one or both of these young ladies be the student rep at the beginning of your administration in January, so I can keep the roster up to date?
It would be great to have two, but soon we'll have a hard time finding two if he keeps using a phone from 1950 to talk into.
Well,
okay,
as also not only the region secretary, but as the bylaws chair, if we want to have two, I will suggest for our next meeting, because we'll have to, vote on it, I will put together a suggested change to the bylaws stating that we may have one or two student representatives.
So it was my understanding, let me just say, it was my understanding that we have one that's the representative for this year, and we have one that's going to be the representative for next year, and that they are working with each other so that there is a fruitful transition. So I think that we don't have to change bylaws. I just think that we have to accept that we are fortunate enough that we have a person this year and a person that's going to be already set up for next year. I think that's what you have.
Well, the only reason I bring this up is that the first young lady, I believe her name was Lynn, again, if graduating in 2022, could remain as a section chair through the first half of 2020, the first half of 2022. And then consider the second young lady as a student rep in training, or, second in command, and then she takes over in May of 2022. It's up to Greg, however he wants to run it. I just want to keep the roster straight if I can, that's all.
I don't have an opinion on it right at the moment, but if we do need to do a bylaw modification, I know we were going to have a few things that Charlie was putting in to move another member onto the XCOM from the wards group. So that will be coming. So we could do both at the same time.
Moving Jason on as the awards chair, in this case, Jason Wee, this year as a non-voting member of the XCOM. Yes, I'm aware of that.
But yeah, that requires a bylaw change too.
Yes, it does.
So that would be two things.
But again, I think that what you have is you have a one-time issue. The other question is going to be is when, these people, it's not just a regional position, it's an IEEE position, and these people sit one RSAC and one RSR, right, per region when you go to the SAC board, right? So I mean, it's not just, we certainly can do anything we want internally as how we set up our setup, right? But there's just one regional student rep that goes to SAC, right?
Yes.
Just like Soon goes to SAC, not a whole lot of folks go to SAC, right? So again, I will let you guys figure this out. But I mean, for me, I didn't have any problem with that, fully knowing that one person is the official RSR, and the other person is helping the process and being set up to be the next.
Okay.
In the next
So
one.
at your convenience, please send me their contact information because I do not have it.
So I wanted to just make a few comments. You know, one of the, as I listened to Soon, I mean, I think one thing that struck me was that you know, the seniors this year or the juniors this year, the the last time there was a live meeting at that university was 2 years ago, and in reality, the senior students, you know, that you're really looking at sophomores that haven't had a lot, sophomores from 2 years ago that haven't had a lot of experience in running meetings because their whole last few years have been virtual zombie meetings. So I think that's part of the challenge. And now you have incoming students that, you know, so we have a very naive set of students running the student chapters. That I didn't even think of that until you started speaking. And then, so I guess my comment is, if we can create and you may already have this, but if you have a list of student leaders, why don't I help you draft a letter to try to engage them better? Because I think we have to do it now. If we wait until January or February, it's really kind of too late, and it's got to start now. And otherwise,
Well,
yeah,
to your point, has happened, I mean, let's understand the nature of student activities, right? Officers come and go on a yearly basis or a double year basis, right? So now we have had 2 year hiatus, which means that the infrastructure in most of universities is almost gone. Now,
yeah,
unless you
that's
have
what
a
I'm
very
trying to say.
strong
Thank you.
academic advisor, all right, we're almost going to have to start from scratch, because in some cases, you know, the people that, you know, the people that would keep on keeping on, you know, are leaving, and never got a chance to, and we never had a chance to make that transition of sophomores joining the organization and learning from the juniors and seniors who are now leaving, right? So we have a significant issues in student activities when the world comes back, because it has been a 2 year hiatus and students leave, right? So I think that from a section point of view and from a regional point of view, and all of us from a SAC point of view, we need to realize that as we come back on, it's almost like we're restarting every student branch, and we're going to have to make a specific effort. Now, the places that have good academic advisors will do okay, but the ones that don't are going to need an awful lot of help. And I think we're going to have to be focused on those type of things and be ready to jump in to help activate or reboost some of these things, because in truth, they're almost dying. You know, 2 years is almost a death period in some of
Oh
these.
yeah, and I think Soon, thank you for giving that presentation, because I that wasn't even on my radar. I mean, not that the student stuff wasn't, it was, but I think it didn't occur to me until I listened to you that how bad off we really are. So I think so maybe there are two action items. One item is for Soon to kind of make sure you get a list of student leaders as soon as possible, so that I can help you reach out to them directly. Well, I guess indirectly via email. And then the second action item is for section chairs to really push to get the leadership names, if Soon doesn't have them, of not only the section, you know, not only the chapters that are local, but the people within the section that are supposed to be interacting with the student chapters as well. So
Yes.
we need to get
Yeah,
that all in order.
The student branch advisor as well.
Yeah.
And so I would say, you know, since I'm going to be, you know, next year, you know, for me, it's money for nothing, right? Checks are free. I'm going to be inherently not that busy. I'm more than happy to get personally involved in helping this in this arena. So I'm, you know, I'm more than happy to you know, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'm more than happy to speak and get involved, right? So you can count on me for next year's, whether I need to travel or I need to get on Zoom or I need to talk, or it doesn't really matter. We'll make a push to make this happen, okay?
All right, thank you.
So I'd like to make one comment soon. So I participated in a couple of the Boston University graduate student activities. So the one thing about that community is just like we was said in earlier. These guys weren't so interested in technical activities. They really wanted social. So we started off with, getting to know each other. It did go out to a global reach just to get the numbers. But then they wanted to play games, and I'm not at the point where I even know how to play Minecraft. Okay, so that's where I stop. But again, yes, this is where the students want to go. They want to play. They want to play social games.
Yeah, agreed.
But let's understand. No, social opens up the networking and the connections that then lead to formal activities. And so we cannot underestimate that most things start through a social engagement. And so, especially for them, they will become they'll become a group. They'll feel comfortable with each other, and then the graduation for better things happen. And it doesn't happen the other way around. So I think social is just fine for student activity.
Somebody's gonna have to teach us. We're gonna have to ask them to teach us how to play these games. So who's interested?
Well, I can get my kids to teach them.
You know, right? Yeah. I mean, right? Because I did look up. I went to go look up Minecraft, and like you said, they're grade schoolers all the way up to graduate students.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, Charlotte, I think you're up. Are you not now?
Okay. Greg,
Is that
shall I
true?
share my slides?
Yes, go ahead. You should be able
Okay.
to share them.
Okay. Let me make sure I am on the right screen. Let me know when you see my screen and if you see my PowerPoint.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I don't see a sharing. I don't see the screen moving towards a sharing screen.
Oh, how about if I click share?
Much better.
Okay.
There you go.
All righties. Okay, so I am going to give you a update on our Region 1 Women in Engineering activities. And the first section is what have we done? So with me, the first thing I always do is I have to look at the metrics. I know metrics don't always tell the whole story, but it gives us a start. And this may be another tool besides vTools that we may need a lesson on, which would be OU Analytics. So here's another suggestion. So by the overall membership, IEEE membership, it's about 8% female. And for Region 1 specifically, we're at 7.2%. So we're a little bit less. And this was taken mid-month. Now, the other thing that OU Analytics gives you, which is a nice perspective, is also, a little bit of a statistics about where your members are. Most of our members are members, not seniors or fellows. So you get a distribution, but you get to also see, are they new? Are they students? Have they been here 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years? So this is a nice overview. I did notice OU Analytics doesn't give it to you by region. Again, it's a bigger global snapshot. So we are talking about newer members. So if we want to get more women engineers, we are looking to the new membership. And then we do have another peek at women who have been with IEEE for a while. If you look
Charlie,
at
could you hit share screen? Could you hit the full screen presentation piece, at the bottom, that little
sure. How is that?
Oh, perfect.
Better for the eyes? All right. So these are the one thing I wanted to notice is if you look at by membership, Region 1 is the largest. Okay, so we have a good share of women in women engineers. So this is a good thing. I did reach out to the affinity group at headquarters, and I wanted to get more of a breakdown. Where are these women? Are they in industry? Are they in academia? Or are they in government? Interesting enough, we'll see that we're about even, 5% in academia and 4% in industry. A lot of the women chose not to, I'm not going to say women. Most of the WE membership had decided not to disclose what their affiliation was. Okay, so the one new thing that's going on with with the affinity group on the global level is what they call the We Pledge. And I'd like to propose to Region 1 that we undertake the We Pledge. And I know that uh, you had discussions on this already. It says that IEEE We pledges to work towards gender diversified panels at all IEEE meetings, conferences, events, including XCOM events. Okay, so what does that look like? That's really dependent on what we as a region decide to do. The goal is to just say we need more women representation on the executive level, not just on the member level. And we want women to go again to go up there, not only to join but to be active. So we want them to be, a chair. We want them to, be a leader in our group here. Okay. What have we done since our last Board of Governors meeting? I did hold a all-out Region 1 women chair group, and it did go into V-Tools. We had 11 in attendance, which was nice. There are several that could not make it. I made it on a Friday, as you could see, Friday our time, towards the end of the day. Now, the majority of the people in attendance were zoomed out. They said they don't want any more Zoom meetings. They didn't mind it because it was more of a social. We did have Jennifer from the Worcester section speak about Collaboratech. So it was kind of a joint, but it was short. If you noticed, it was set for 1 hour, but we decided that for future meetings, we're just going to make it, half hour, something quick and easy that they don't have to, sit down for a length of time. Again, the idea was that they were being zoomed out. Okay. The next thing is I'll go on to what should we do a little bit. What should we do is we need to start preparing for our Region 1 and 2 Women in Engineering Forum USA East. And that's the conference between Region 1 and Region 2. It was scheduled to be in Providence. This year it was canceled. Or last year it was canceled. We will be looking towards a November 2022 meeting. Again, this is far out. We're looking for not a hybrid. Again, we're looking to a face-to-face meeting. So again, this is kind of in wait. I will have a group meeting on anyone who's interested in joining us. Again, this is a Region 1, Region 2 conference. Our focus here really is to, just in line with the region, retain, attract, and recruit. We definitely need more women membership here, and we need women leaders. And I think that is all I have. So I'll entertain any questions or comments.
There was a question that said, is WOE include all the women in IEEE? And the answer is absolutely not. You have to join
Correct.
WIE. And by the way, you can join regardless of gender. So there are males in IEEE, women in engineering who have joined that grouping. And yes, you have to join and you pay a fee. And by the way, the fee was not imposed by anybody but WIE itself. I want you guys to understand. And the view when the WIE formed was that nobody would join, an organization that didn't have some type of dues, and so they imposed for themselves a dues base structure. And so that is the story of IEEE WIE. They do tremendous things in leadership and leadership conferencing outside. They have a major event every year, which is highly attended and not only by folks but supported by industry. So I mean, they're active, but no, if you're a woman in IEEE, you're not a WIE member automatically.
Marlette, I had a question.
Yes.
If you go back one slide prior to the one that's shown right now, maybe I'm
Yes.
misinterpreting this. This 7.2% female number, is that a percentage of the women in Region 1 or a percentage of the members in Region 1?
This is the members of the all members of
So
IEEE. So
7.
this we could have more members, but right now, out of all of IEEE membership in Region 1, only 7.2% are female. So
Okay, so
we
that's okay, but that doesn't tell us what percentage of those women
are we members.
we members.
Correct.
Is it possible to get that number? Or
Let's see.
OU
Did I get
Analytics
that?
not give it to us?
Not from OU Analytics. Let me see. This is overall. Okay.
But do the math. You know, we have 20-something thousand members. 7% of that is a number, and you divide that by the 500 something that Charlotte said, and you got a percentage.
529. Yep.
I mean, you know, we know math. I mean, at least I can count.
Well, and so, but the math isn't adding up, to be honest. I mean, so you said there are 7.2%, but yet there are about 25,000 members, and then in this slide you say there are 529.
Yes, because the difference is between women, the people we believe are women within the region, vice the people, the women or the members who actually have joined WIE. And since you do not go there automatically, the numbers are.
Oh, okay. This number is just we then. Okay, that's what I needed to hear. I wasn't sure.
So okay, so whatever, 7% of it's like 15,000, and you know, and 500 and something or 600 is a percentage of 15,000. So what do we have? 3%, 4%?
No, if there are 15,000 women in the, how many members? Let's see. Well,
Let's
that's
see. Here we have. This is through the years. Okay. This is directly from. These are we members here. So if IEEE back in December of 2020, there was almost 400,000, and the percentage globally of that was only 15%. So only 4% were we members at that point. So even if we say that we're steady in 21, we still only have, you know, maybe 15,000 we members, and out of that, we have the majority being in Region 1. And I actually believe that the numbers in 2021 increased over the regions. I did do another meeting where we looked at it regionally, and in some regions, we actually had an increase in the number of we members.
I did not realize that Region 1 actually had more members than Region 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 combined. I did not know that we had
all regions combined.
Right. So here we are. I never bragged about this. I mean, I could always brag about this, but I never bragged. Greg,
Well,
you get
just
to
think
brag.
that we for women in engineering, most of the IEEE women leaders are from the Northeast. Historically, they're all from the Northeast USA. Yes, there's a trend that's moving over towards Region 10, but still the majority of women IEEE leaders are still in the Northeast. So we're still Region 1.
So here's a comment. So if we have so many women in the region that are part of we, how come I can't get them on the XCOM or on other committees in the region? We should have the most success at this compared to anyone else in the world, but yet, you know, you count them on your hand. So here I'm going to look to you to say, I'm going to just say this: I need your help in identifying people that want roles, and we'll bring them in, and we'll balance it. But I've talked to my wife about this, who's a professional, by the way, and I've said, how do I ask a woman to be a leader without insulting her and saying, I need to balance numbers? I want women that want to be part of the leadership for the right reasons, and that's it. I just want the right people and good people. So it's hard, as a guy, it's sometimes hard to do this because I don't want to introduce bias just because I'm trying to balance numbers. But I am happy to bring in people that want to be part of the the regional leadership that are looking for roles.
And so in this meeting that we had that was open to all of Region 1 women in engineering chairs, the major, one of the threads that was there are common to all of us was we don't have the bandwidth. And so maybe that micro activities would work better. Maybe not a section or a we representative, but maybe a micro volunteer because they don't have the bandwidth. Some didn't really have the hour. They maybe had double booked or they had other family matters to go to. So it's resources. Yes, they're interested. They want to get involved, but the limitation was, how much could they really give to a leadership position? But if we did indeed have micro activities and we recognize them in the event that they took over this event, but they were part of the team that went ahead, I think that would work. How are we going to realize that? That's a good question.
Okay.
But it would be something if we can lead in this. I think it would be very important. We have some leadership lead in numbers. We should lead in that kind of action, and that you kind of take that on as something that we the senior leadership wants very much to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, we need the help. Actually, we need help. We need help.
Right. And if you look at the bottom graph here, if you look, where's the distribution of women? They're really the ones that are new students, are coming in from the students. They're new members or they're seasoned. So here are we can think maybe these are the mentees and these are the mentors. So maybe we want to go down that path.
Yeah, but
Further
anyway,
discussion, yeah.
something that needs to be focused on, and Charlotte, help us in this to the
Mhm.
point.
Yep.
And all other female leadership that are on this meeting, help us in this. We need to figure out how to do this better. It's not for lack of wanting, it's maybe just lack of knowing, and so we need the help. All right.
And the only thing, Ed, we'll have to get back to Lisa about the we pledge for Region 1. I'm going to say to her that we have accepted, we embrace it. As to what actually are our determinations, we'll get back to her about that. How we're
Well,
going
I
to
think what we're
implement.
going to do is we're going to take let's say that everything Greg and I we're going to set up an ad hoc to help us implement that and how we can attract and bring women to leadership positions, and it may be through micro engineering, but why don't we let us go through a process of creating a committee to focus on just this, right? And it can
Yep.
it can be that, we can do it between I can set it up now and then we can do it transitioning it over to Greg, but I think we need to actively move forward in trying to make it happen, as opposed to just say we have a pledge and
Right.
say
It's the implementation part
it's
that
the implementation piece, and we certainly can use help in the implementation piece.
But I'm going to reiterate this. I mean, nobody wants to be selected because they're being chosen to balance numbers. They want to be chosen because they're good, and I think that has to be priority. So I want to balance the numbers, but I don't want them thinking that we're just trying to balance numbers.
So what is the copying machine company that was up in Rochester for the longest of time? I don't remember.
Xerox, you mean? Yeah.
Xerox. So as a young Hispanic up and coming leader, I get a call from a recruiter who said, we want you to come over to be, the management position, a senior management position. And we're talking, and then he says, because we're really trying to increase the number of minorities in the leadership position.
Right?
And I
You don't wanna
said,
hear
I
that.
tell you what, you don't want me. I'm not coming. If you tell me you want me because I'm the best candidate, I'm there. But if you tell me you want me because I happen to be Hispanic and have a Hispanic land, you know what? Find somebody else. But this is not Eddie. And so, yes, exactly for that reason, we want people who have leadership skills and come. You'll make us better. We need you because you make us better. Because we need to have a different view. By the way, ditto on YP. Young professional. I want to see young professionals in the mainstream because you make us better, because you help us come up with the help us figure out the paradigm that we are not yet getting on our own. I mean, that's the story, right? I need you to make us better. But yeah, let's do something to do that. All right.
Thank you.
We're behind.
More?
Uh,
Was that it, Charlotte, or you have more?
That's it. I am done.
Okay, done. Thank you. Very good. Very good. And we
Thank you.
have action to take this. Who else do we have coming up now?
We have life members
The
was supposed to
YP, there is no life member present
He
today.
will not be
Right.
on. He will not be on. Unfortunately, he is not well. By the way, have we gotten any kind of update of how Lou is doing?
Yeah, I spoke with him yesterday. He's doing a lot better. I won't go into the particulars because I don't think that needs to be
Yeah,
public.
but is he
But
better?
it's still, they're still trying to figure out. The problem is the medication he's on is leading to some problems. Excuse me. They're trying to change the medication, but they're concerned with the effect that the new medication will have on whatever the old medication did to his body. It's going through a whole thing.
Okay, all right. So
He's been home
just
for
when you
about
talk
3
to him,
days.
tell him that the whole region, thinks of him and is hoping for his recovery.
Well, per the meeting last week where the ExCom agreed that we should be sending flowers, I did wait because it was up in the air as to whether I should send them to his house or to the hospital because he wasn't sure when he was going to be released. I did send them to his home. Actually, they're being delivered today. But they now knowing now that he's home, I sent them to his house, and the delivery date is today. So
Okay,
I
thank
expect
you.
to hear
Just
something
stay.
to the region as a thank you from him at some point.
Yeah, he's in our prayers. All right.
And I
Who
sent
else
them to the
after
region.
LM?
He doesn't know that I sent them. That I made the arrangements. It was marked from the region.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Um,
So the next one on the schedule was young professionals. That'd be Larry.
Yep. So for me, I've decided on this one to actually not have slides on the screen because it's probably better to focus on the few items I want to talk about than trying to read slides. Because the YPs are right now in a little bit of a reset mode is probably the best way to describe it. So let me start off by saying at the beginning of this year, what we had been doing was getting a lot of group interaction with all the YPs at the section level, coming up to the region and sharing ideas. That worked well in the beginning of the pandemic. We had a lot of cross pollination. We were getting good participation. I think we ended up with some Zoom burnout, probably around end of spring timeframe. I was trying to host a semi-regular gathering to say, what do you guys need? Keep communications open. Then we were doing it between 6 and 8 weeks apart to have a communication. By end of spring, I started losing attendance. I wasn't getting people communicating. I wasn't getting responses to emails. So it seemed like there was a dynamic shift going on in the sections. And our IEEE USA region young professional rep, Mar Mar Marcusio, who happens to be a Worcester County member also, sent out a thing to a bunch of sections, in essence saying our rosters were not being updated correctly and they didn't have contact information, which might explain why I was getting a lack of communication because I was running off of an old contact list. So in that scenario, he reached out to all the sections, copied me on it, and we have a bunch of new names now that have appeared as, oh no, that wasn't the person running YP. There's this new person running YP. So I have a bunch of new contacts that I am starting from, and I don't know why this all happened midsummer. So I don't know if this was a problem longer than that, and we're just correcting it now, or if a lot of sections lost volunteers over the summertime and we're kind of resetting with new volunteers coming in. So that's one of the thing I'm noticing as a concern is we're kind of starting over again with new people, not on a cycle that we normally start with new people from. So I'm going to be reaching out to this new set of people, but one of the things that it's pointed out for me is pointing out that we have a lot of YPs that are new that need training. Based on stuff that I've seen, the type of training they need is going to be interactive training. That training is going to be very much, I guess, hybrid in this current nature because nobody wants to do full meetings only, especially the YPs. They're, they want some interaction, but they love going on to Zoom and not having to drive. But they hate sitting there and watching a video. They don't like. I've shown them we've got all this training online. You can just go and watch the video. They want to be able to interactively ask questions. So the recordings are great, but they still want, human interaction. And I found that the few times I've done that in the last couple months, 4 different sections, they wanted basic training on things like, oh, how do I do an L31 as a YP so I can get the credit? Things that'll be like, I didn't think I should be the one training for that, but they didn't even know who else to ask. And only because of those group meetings were we finding out they needed to learn how to do these basic aspects of being a young professional in IEEE and getting credit for it and getting money and getting, the paperwork done. So I think that's kind of leads to why our reporting and also more importantly our communication lists are falling apart is they're not reporting into the proper channels to make proper contact lists showing up, which is why I don't know that the guards have changed for YPs and why I can't seem to get a hold of them. So some of that stuff we had talked about earlier at the on the other communication stuff, it's definitely something I'm noticing on the YP side that we need a very consistent way of getting who's in charge in your section so that I can have a semi up to date contact list. Um, and to know where I can get that list and whether I'm going to be the one maintaining it or is somebody at staff maintaining it for me or that level of stuff we're definitely in a breakdown right now where I'm kind of shooting from the hip, getting names from one-off emails, finding out from section chairs. Oh, by the way, here's the YP. I'm not telling you because we changed it. I'm telling you because you asked. And if I don't ask all the time, I'm not going to know who they are. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing as a concern going into this second half of our pandemic approaches is definitely change of people, communications are breaking down, probably because of Zoom fatigue from one level, but also just from a lack of understanding of how to do the basics of setting up the structures within each of the sections. And I'm finding I'm more valuable to these YP people just to get them up and running in that manner, and less so on, how do we reach out and find a new audience? They're not even worried about that. They're trying to just get basic communications working across the board. Though that being said, I have had some sections wanting to go above and beyond. They have a good core team. They know what they're doing, and they want additional visibility. They want access to different funds. So those ones I've been able to help point down the right path. But I find that's not the majority of these YPs. A lot of them are they kind of have to keep restarting from scratch because their teams fall apart and they want to do something, but they just need to know how do I get jump started again so I can get up and running. And that seems to be the more critical need right now at our level in the pandemic scenario. But so those are the key things I wanted to go over was communication problems, restarting of people, and definitely the desire for interactive training, not just video pre-recorded. Here's how you should do it. Good luck.
So Larry,
Uh,
let me just say,
yeah.
you know that there are many things that the IEEE can do if only we ask. You got to understand that, right?
Yeah.
So if only we ask. I always say never underestimate the power of the ask, right? I usually say yes when I am asked by somebody within the IEEE. And the IEEE, whether I ask young professionals or women in engineering chairs or CJ in MGA or actually anybody, one of the joys or one of the benefits of being a director is you get to meet everyone, right? Everybody in every conceivable position within the IEEE. So let me just say, asking of what you're telling me what you need and asking, we can probably find that type of person that can easily, yes, I know people have been zoomed to death, but if you want to have somebody in California talk to us because they're the best person, or in London where we have some tremendous WIE, past chair. I mean, there are some great places, and all we need to do is ask. And so let me just say, do not underestimate the power of the ask. That's the one aspect. And I say that to everyone, whether it's because we want tools, training, or actually a whole lot of other things, training. The breadth of the IEEE is there for us to use if we so choose to use it. What we're not going to do is tell you, because you're going to kind of say, go away, you bother me. Hey, come on down, I want to do this. Come on down. That's not, IEEE is not going to bombard you. I mean, we feel we get bombarded with that. But specific asks are usually uh, addressed and done. So, and to all of you, understand the power of the ask. Um,
So I
other
would
thing,
say one thing that's definitely an ask then would be having a so each of these um groups that we have all these things. I think we definitely need a list maintained that is available for each of our region leaders of their subordinates. Like in my case, I really need that list
Need a better
well
list.
maintained.
yeah. And
I need a better list of my subordinates.
and by the way, this is my constant ask to the areas, and I will say this: the areas chair this year have been, at least in my assessment, I've had exceptional areas chairs because they talk to their sections and they're active. But I mean, we ask the area chairs to kind of go into the sections, to request the section leadership, to provide the information so that the information can be up to up to date, so that we can so that everybody can benefit from that, right? From not only so we know, so that Charlotte knows who the ones are in each section, so that Larry knows where I can go for a piece, so that Sue knows who is the local person worried about whatever, right? Students. So, this is a contact sport and we have to be involved. And so let me just say, uh, more important than ever, I'm going to also give you, the last perspective, because you're probably not going to hear from me again. Uh, the future of the IEEE is tied into whether or not we understand that we need to be spouse diversity as much as possible. And that does not mean that we're going to have to go out and get all these traditionally underrepresented group and try to convince them to be exactly like us. Anything, that hasn't worked for the last 10 years. And so it also means that we, who are unfortunately or fortunately, the oldies but goodies, tend to run the IEEE, and that brings tons of experience. But you know what? It also brings a certain type of thinking that even though our hearts are pure, and I believe they are, right? Everybody here, their hearts are pure, and I bleed IEEE blue like many of you, right? But it has to be beyond me. It has to be beyond us. And so, to me, salvation for us is whether or not we can spouse and we can learn from those who are underrepresented to try to change the institute to be able to service them in the way they feel they need to be serviced, as opposed to convince them that they should be serviced the way I was, right? Because that's kind of what I know, right? And it's a completely different mindset. And I think if we can espouse that, there's hope in the soul. And if we don't, if you always do what you always did, then you always get what you always got. And I've been saying this for 10 years, and the trends don't change. That's what we always do, what we always did, then you always get what you always got. The last thing I'm going to say is I know that everybody believes students are the future. And let me just say that's half the solution, half the equation. The other equation is even as important. Student activities is important so that students know there's such a thing as an IEEE. But the institute has to be receptive when they graduate. And it has to provide them a home for young and incoming professionals. And without doing that, student activities is interesting, but folks, if 50% of the IEEE membership turns out to be student, we just became a frat, all right? And a completely different organization. So for me, student activities are very important, but even more so is the ability for us in mainstream to provide a welcoming and useful home when they transition. And by the way, that's not done in student activities. It's done in mainstream activities, in our activities, and what we provide them as, for them to come in. So, like I said, I used to be SAC, right? I used to be SAC for the IEEE. And it's very important to me, but it became very clear that regardless of what I did in SAC, I wasn't going to solve a problem of transition unless mainstream IEEE made their entry into the professional ranks worthwhile, easy, right? Useful. And so it is us who have to change. It is us who have to adapt. It is us who have to figure out how to bring folks in and give them what they want as opposed to what we think they need. And if you think of it that way, I think at the end of the day, we'll be better. And if we don't, you always do what you always did, and you always get what you always did. All right. I think we are close to the end of the party because I think everybody has given me their what I think I'm going to do in the future. Now, I'm going to stop and ask, are there any presentations that need be made that I am Greg, you have closing remarks, but there's any presentations that need be made for what should we be doing that was not already covered?
I have one question for the folks that just give presentations, which is related to lists. So are the lists that we need, are those regional lists? Or are you asking us to go to IEEE above us and say we're not getting the right lists? I want to make sure I understand the problem better. I mean, if you need lists of people in the region, that can be an item to do.
I mean, I would think from a young professional standpoint, having a region-based list would be useful because it's going to be potentially chairs of YPs under each of the sections, but it could also be people that are highly motivated to want to do stuff at the regional level for YPs that may need to be on that list. So that list might be slightly more diverse than what the IEEE Global can give us, because they're just going to use a checkbox and say, does he fit this field? Yes, that's the list you get. I think we want a more dynamic list that's maintained at the region level that people, like you were saying, can get off when they don't no longer belong on that list, but can stay on as long as they think they belong on that list.
Okay. I have some ideas on that, but that's what I wanted to hear because it's one thing to say we need a list, and then if we go to CJ and say, hey, we don't get the right list, then she's disconnected from the sectional level, so that she doesn't necessarily know what's going on at the sectional level. Whereas I think, can reach down a little easier down the chain. So there you go, Ed.
Okay, so now when is the HKN induction ceremony start at 12:30?
It starts at, let's see,
I have 1250.
1250.
Okay, so can
I
we
can-
maintain? I guess we can come in and out of this. Can you keep this on or?
Yeah, let me share a few slides before we break off.
No, by all means.
And then we'll maybe I could just sort of leave it running until they come
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Then we can come back on.
All right, well, let's see. Actually, before I start my slide share, I wanted to just say a word of thanks to Ed. And I think, you know, as the incoming Region 1 director, you know, you often I'm about to share a set of slides that are actually from when I gave my presentation about why I wanted to be a director. And I think when I gave those, you know, like every new director, you're a little naive to what the real workload is. And I think Ed really calibrated me and was instrumental in kind of bringing me along in a virtual world, which was even more difficult than it would have been had we been in person at meetings. And so I think many of you that are listening probably don't realize the depth of commitment that Ed has had over the last 2 years. And those of you that have been directors certainly know what that commitment has been. And it would be a shame to not say thank you. And I really do appreciate everything that you've done over the last 2 years and the struggles that you've had to deal with remarkably well. And again, thank you for your time and effort. I'm sure all of us would probably say the same thing in person. It's a shame that we can't do that in person, but at least we can do it virtually. So I wanted to just start off by saying thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It has been my pleasure.
All right, so let me, when you first asked me to do this, let's see, I've got too many things open now. Do you see, are we back to this one? Mine, can you see my slides? All right, so, gosh. So these are actually my slides from 2019. Now, I don't want to say I have a crystal ball, but when Ed said, you know, what should we do in the upcoming year, I said, well, maybe I better first live up to what I said I was going to do. So I pulled up my old set of slides, and I have to tell you, it was almost kind of comical. It was like I had a crystal ball, and I wish I could be as good at predicting the economy as I am at predicting what happens to IEEE. But I had 3 specific goals. One was to improve the sense of community across the region. The second was to prioritize membership recruitment and retention throughout the region. And the third was really to increase the promotion of women engineers and scientists within Region 1. Now today you've heard from many groups, and this has not changed. But you know, one of the things that one of the solutions I had proposed for the first one was to add, was to add 2 web-based goal-directed meetings with 1 in-person meeting. Well, we were sort of forced into that. I didn't know how I would pull off the web-based meetings, but it's pretty clear that we'll be doing those in the future. So look forward to that in the upcoming year. We will do that. But I am looking to do more extensive communications from the region and sections about our membership and things that are going on. And I think that kind of ties into the need for advertising your events, more broadly than just within your section. How can it be, how can we deliver that across the region? Now, I can't saturate people with too many emails, so I have to figure out a more effective way of kind of collecting things that can go out in a single email so I don't get 10,000 hate emails every month saying, why am I getting so much email? And that, by the way, you do get that, not 10,000, but a few. The second goal was really to prioritize our membership recruitment and retention. And I had come up with this graph which says, how does Rochester interact with its neighbors? I think we've solved some of this. And I think we've seen this happen. But one of the things that sort of fell off the radar, I think, as we had to kind of deal with this, has been to kind of watch our membership goals and our, our senior leader, um, uh, elevating people to senior members. We haven't really paid much attention to those goals. MGA hasn't been bothering us with those as much recently, but whether you know it or not, they do have recruitment goals for each of the sections. And so I'll be kind of pushing those down the chain to you to make sure that you're at least knowledgeable about what they are and what the goals are. And then the second was to expand the student conference. I think we heard from Soon that there's a need to do this. And so hopefully in the upcoming year and a half, we can kind of get the student membership rolling again and rebuilding it after this falling out from COVID-19. And I had wanted to target large schools. I think just fixing the whole system is more important than worrying about that. And then the last goal really was to increase the promotion of women engineers and scientists. And interestingly enough, when I did this slide in 2019, the percentage was still 7.3%. So we've increased 0.1%, but there are problems, right? There are very few women that are fellows, for example. So why aren't sections helping to promote elevating women that are, should be elevated as fellows within IEEE? And one of the things I wanted to do was actively recruit more women to the Region 1 leadership. And we've talked about that today, and doing that not only at the regional level, but at the sectional level as well. And so those were my goals. So I think I don't want to spend a lot of time elaborating on that. I was going to put them up for thought, thinking that others were going to have more to say on what they wanted to do in the upcoming year. But at least suffice to say that I will try to live up to those goals in the upcoming 2 years. And so I'm going to stop there, Ed, but I wanted to throw those up there as a reminder.
And I think that your goals are good for section leadership and area leadership to take as well. They really fit the need. Always, always be member facing, always be, right? Always be member facing, always be looking at what the members tell you the need are. So that's our need. Let's do that. And by the way, for me, next year I get to be the past chair, which means that, again, I can be used in any way you want. And I do have some specific tasks, but as always, I'm here for your help as you see fit. Okay, folks, there's going to be a 12:50 event, right? It's a Kappa Nu event. And if we used to know what Edda knew, we would have been all, no, let me get it. I can't go there. If I only knew what Edda knew, we would all be doing well. But at 12:50, there is an Eta Kappa Nu induction ceremony. I don't know who's going to be there, but I know I am, because I am being inducted, I've been told. So I'll see you there. Greg, you're going to keep this alive for
I
that?
won't keep this alive. I think that's the easiest.
Yeah, that way when people come on up, I'll get back on at the time. It has been my pleasure, absolute pleasure working with all of you. I wish I would have spent time with you. I really, really, really miss that. But there will be times. I will be around, and there will be time for us to talk and continue in our long journey of IEEE volunteering, which we all do and take seriously. We will see each other in many places and do many things together. So with that, I thank you. And we'll see each other soon. Oh yes, we have another event coming. The Battle of the Titans, right? The two regional director nominees are going to have a face-to-face opportunity, or a virtual opportunity to talk to the region. Let's make sure that we get as broad an attendance as possible. Yes, it is a very difficult choice. We have two exceptional candidates, and doesn't matter who the winner is, that we're going to find something tremendous for the other to do. So, because these are people that have value well beyond, locally. So to me, it's easy. It's easy. We have great folks. But anyway, they will be, and they will talk to us and get a large get a set of folks to hear them, and then more important, have folks vote. Even more important, only 10%, 11% of our people vote, and so I mean, I always want to say that if we're lucky, we get 15 and 16. I mean, we get the amount of people who vote is not necessarily that large. So let's encourage voting. Let encourage listening to these great folks, and we'll do.
So that event will be on September 9th, and it's open to the entire region. So
yes.
even though you guys are hearing about it here, we would encourage you to spread it to your to your own sectional leadership. But you will see notices going out via vTools to your entire membership. And this is really an effort to give more exposure to the entire to the entire region about who's up for election.
Okay, with that, we adjourn. Thank you all for spending a Sunday with us. I hope it was worth your while. It certainly was worth mine. I'll see you in 44 minutes for those of you who are going to come back and join this. So with that, I bid you all adieu. Bye-bye.
Have a good lunch, everyone. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.